Hey folks, welcome back to Only Best Fantasy Novels. Today I want to talk about the concluding volume of the Fear of Our Tapestry, The Darkest Road by Gavriel. And this is an okay ending to what's ultimately been an okay series. Honestly, I think I would have enjoyed this series quite a bit more if I weren't completely saturated on the whole Arthurian myth legend shtick. So if you don't have that hang up, this is probably going to work a lot better for you than it did for me. I'm just saying that right out the gate. So anyway, let's dive into it. What is this book even about? So like I said, this is the concluding volume, and in this one, war is approaching. An evil ray invades the land, and Rakath Malgrim's forces, they're on the march. In their desperation, the forces of light turn to a questionable resource in an attempt to finish his battle once and for all, victoriously. On the other side of that, and then on another plot point, I should say, we have Darian, the child of light and darkness, who must decide which road he wants to set out, which path he wants to take, and that he has to make that decision as he sets off on the darkest road. So yeah, that's kind of just a little tease of what this book is about. At the end of the day, like, this is the final volume in the series, and I think this one is the one where GGK most deviates most from the whole Lord of the Rings formula. By this book, the story is about as much of his own as he can make it within the constraints of a story that's heavily inspired by Lord of the Rings. And for some reasons, I also see it as my favorite of the three so far, and that kind of makes sense because it's the finale. It goes big, it goes hard. A lot of things happens. The cast, for example, expands quite a bit. We get just a lot more stuff, but that also has its drawbacks, which I'll touch on a little bit later. You can even see the way that GGK kind of progressed over the course of these books. Like, I felt like this was almost like his most poetic when it comes to his prose. Like, he not that the other two weren't top tier, but like this one, I feel like he really like this. And by this one, he really felt like the GGK that I just love. Yeah. Anyway, so there's that. I keep bringing up Lord of the Rings, comparing this series to Lord of the Rings, which is fair because it's heavily inspired. But there's one big way in which this series deviates from Lord of the Rings, and it's the way the characters, like their morality, like they're not binary in the way that Lord of the Rings has a very binary morality system. The characters in these books, their morality falls all over the spectrum, and I think one of the most glaring examples in this book is with Darian himself, who he kind of has to choose a path between good and evil, and it's created quite a significant turmoil for him as a result of that, because he has heritage from both sides of the fence, and then in addition to that, like there is the whole situation makes you really wonder if he truly has a choice at all. Like when you see what he's confronted with and these kind of things, it reads like he's supposed to have a choice, but he doesn't quite have one. Like, there's only one real choice he can make. So it makes you really question if free will is even a thing in this where it comes to his particular storyline. If free will is even a thing in general where it comes to characters of his nature in fantasy. So like I just kind of like the way that GGK kind of presented that part of it. Like, his story was I think his story for me was the most thought-provoking and most emotional of everything I've seen in the trilogy so far, just because of the way that GTK kind of plays around with the choice that he has to make. And then there are other characters who were introduced that just plain didn't work for me. Like, there's a major POV who was introduced on the evil side of the fence, and he's a significant part. He's a significant member of that force, and his motivation for why he's doing what he does is not very interesting. Is almost kind of arbitrary, And unfortunately, he is one of the POVs that we get a significant amount of time with. So that just didn't compel me the way maybe it works for other readers. But there's that. In general, there are, as much as I say this is my favorite book of the three, there are some sections that I just kind of struggled with. Like, for example, it kind of felt like at least the first, I would say, the first major chunk of this book, maybe even up to the first third or so, it was almost like we were rehashing events that have already happened in the previous book or two, because like this is the grand finale. Everyone kind of comes together at the start of this book, and there's a lot of catching up and rehashing on what's like. It's a good way for GTK to kind of bring readers back up to speed, but it's not one that really works when you have the ability to read these books back to back the way I did. It just kind of introduced quite a bit of like bloat, like in my case. But at the same time, I do recognize the functionality of it. So depending on how you read these books, this section might or might not have an impact on you. So there's that. Overall, like I said, I think I'll just chalk this up to an okay read. The thing is, like, even though I keep saying this is an okay read, the one compelling element in this book and in the series in general is just the way that GTK narrates this thing. Like, this guy, the one thing I keep talking about over and over and over in these videos where it comes to these books is just his writing, because his writing is, for me, his writing is the backbone of this series. Like, if it wasn't for his writing, I wouldn't even consider this an okay series. I would have been completely frustrated with it probably from book one. Like, his writing does all the heavy lifting here, and now that I'm nearly at the end of reading everything that he has published, I'm happy that I can say that I made it through the Fear of Our Tapestry. It didn't work for me the way that it probably will work for most other readers, but that's, like I said at the start of the video, that's largely because I just have a thing when it comes to Arthurian fiction. I've read quite a lot of it. I'm really fed up of it at this point. So it being introduced and used as heavily as it is in here, it just didn't work for me. If you don't care, if you're happy with Arthurian fiction, you'll probably enjoy these books significantly more than I did. And yeah, like ultimately, even though these are just like okay reads, I'm glad I read them. And yeah, I think that's all I really have to say about The Darkest Road. If you've made it this far into the video, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.